What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking on my channel. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I've been working on some sort of node chain here that will bring an image and turn it into mesh data or curve data. So you could just draw or import an image and trace it, and you'll have curves. And yeah, so it seems to work pretty good. By the time you're watching this, you'll probably have the Gumroad for this already up. So you'll probably just be able to download the node chain from my Gumroad, which if you look here, does a pretty good job of tracing out images. We're going to have, it can like take in and out colors. You can use alpha channels if you have a PNG. And if you have something low res, it'll smooth out the curves. So it will have its own anti-aliasing when you convert to curve. It seems to work pretty good. The more islands you have, like this has a lot of independent islands, it makes the whole process pretty slow. And this whole thing right here took quite a bit to trace. So we're actually not going to get in the nitty-gritty of every little piece here. But we are going to go over the basics of how to take an image and turn it into just basic mesh data. So I'm going to close this one, and we're going to come over to this one. So today, we're going to learn how to draw spooky ghosts and have those spooky ghosts be planes, be curve data, filled curves, and if you hit play, the curve is going to animate, and that's pretty fun. And it's going to update in real time. So if I just kind of cut through here, oh, look at that. It destroys them. And if you start at 0, you'll notice it traces out the whole image, which is also pretty fun. So we're going to go over the basics of how to do all of this. And I think hopefully you'll have fun following along. So I'm going to hit pause here, minimize this one, and now we're going to come over here and start a brand new session. I am running version 3.6.5. You might have a different version, you may not. If you have Geonodes in your version of Blender, odds are you should be able to do what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure all of these nodes have been in Blender's node system for a while and have not changed since the recording of this video. So we're just going to start with this, clicking off the splash screen, and we're going to dive right into learning how to take an image and turn it into meshes or curves so you can do whatever your heart's content with that data, whatever you want. You can also turn it into SVGs. So here we go. We're going to hit the A key to select everything, and then we're going to hit the X key to bring up the delete menu and delete everything. Shift A to bring up our add menu, and we're just going to pick a plane. Honestly, doesn't matter what you pick. You can pick anything because we're not using this geodata. We're coming over to Geonodes up here, and we're just going to click Geonodes, and then we're going to click here and click New. And this gives us the group input, and it gives us the group output. The input is this plane. It's whatever the geometry data is before you apply to your Geonodes. That's the input, and the output is what you see. So if I unplug this, it goes invisible. If I undo that, it comes back. So we have our plane, which is simply 4 points. Now, what we want to do is we're not going to use this plane. We're going to override the data by coming up with our add menu with Shift A. And then we're going to do primitives, grid, and drop that grid right there. I'm going to do 2 changes here. First off, I'm going to just make it bigger for just my enjoyment. I'm going to do 5 meters. I feel like that gives me a decent sized canvas just to have fun with. And the vertices here, well, we're going to want to increase those verts because we've only got 4 faces with a 3-verse cut, and we want a lot more. So let's just start, nothing too crazy. Let's just do 500. 5 meters by 5 meters with the X and Y divided by, with the 500. There you go, fives, just lots of fives. And we get a very even distribution of subdivision here. And we can just make this whatever number we want, but if it's too much for your hardware, just make it smaller. So now we have our canvas. We've got the grid that has been divided up, and now we want to figure out how to basically delete faces from the geometry that are part of our image, that are being controlled by an image. So we want to come up here with our add menu with Shift A, come over here to geometry, operations, delete geometry, and plop that right there. Now for convenience, I'm just going to change it from point to face. You can leave it at point if you really want. I find face operates a little bit better for this. Don't panic if it's disappeared on you. It's supposed to do that. So next step is we need to add in an image texture. Shift A, texture, image texture. And we're going to plug the color into the selection, and the plane comes back. Now we need to go get an image. At this point, you can get any image. You can get a video, you can get a PNG, a JPEG, any image. Like, it doesn't matter. You can just drop it in there, and it'll delete the faces. But, I'm just going to make my own image because that's fun. We're going to draw ghosts, hopefully, together. So in this window, I'm coming up to this button. We're doing image editor, and then we're going to click new. Doesn't really matter. Just click OK. That's good enough. And we got a black canvas. And we're going to come back down here to our node tree and pick our image we just created. It's just called Untitled. And I'm going to then come up here and change from View to Paint. And I'm just going to tab on these little arrows right here to open up these menus, because I want those menus at this point. So I got my brush, and it looks like we have white ink, 50 pixels, 100, strength of 1. Sounds good. Let's draw something. I actually want to make this a little bigger. Let's just get like a big circle right there in the middle. Okay. In the center of our image, we now have this polka dot pattern. It's doing a step and repeat, and we could do that. I mean, it's pretty cool. Just do a simple step and repeat, no changes, you're done. But we want to control the scale of this. We don't want that for just what we're trying to do. We want to control, we just want one centered, scaled up to be the size of the plane. How to do that is you want to do in Geonodes, Shift A, we're going to add a position node. I can never remember where it is, so I just search position. And we're going to plug it into the vector. And now we're going to come over here with Shift A over to Utilities, Vector Math. And we're going to change this to multiply add. Now, if I increase the multiply number here, Z really doesn't matter. So we're just going to change X and Y here. We could do Z. It's not going to impact anything. And we're just going to do like maybe a 0.1. Nothing. We're going to do like a 0.5. And now we got something. And it's still repeating, so we're actually going to do clip. And that's where our image is. So we want to do add. We're going to do add it by 0.5 to center it. That's how you center it. And since I'm just going to make this easier on myself, I'm going to add in a value, a input constant value. I'm just going to plug that in the multiply so that it is just one little slider to control everything, Boom. There we go. So that's how you use an image to delete faces. And if I come over here to solid view, we got our image. What do you know about that? It doesn't seem as though, it seems like it's like kind of overscaled. Let me try 0.2. I feel like 0.2 works pretty good. Yeah, it looks good enough. Cool. All right. 0.2 in the multiply value, 0.5 in the added, centers it, scales it for this size grid appropriately. And that's all we're going to worry about right now. Every time you change some stuff, you might have to change some stuff here. In my image to mesh to curve generator that I'm putting together, that's going to be all handled with math, so it all will scale proportionally with each other. You don't have to worry about that. We're just throwing in some stuff. Shouldn't be too demanding at all right now. So we got our plane. We got a hole punched through our plane. And we can literally just draw anything in there, and it's going to punch it through the plane. We also have all of these faces and a lot of aliasing on the edge, which is dependent on the resolution used for the X and Y. So we could make this edge smoother by increasing this resolution, or we could turn this into curves and just keep the trace and delete all these other faces. And I think we should do that because it's going to really relieve a lot of the stress on the load stress on this and the time it takes to do stuff. So we're going to do Shift-A, Mesh, Operations, and we are going to extrude Mesh. And now we have an extrusion, but we want to uncheck individual, okay? And you can see we got the hole. There you go. Cool. Cool box. And you can just sort of bool anything out like that. It's very, very easy. But we also don't want all this data. We're just trying to get the bottom, just this bottom line that we originally had, and nothing else. So in order to keep the bottom line, which will be our trace, we're just going to duplicate, delete geometry, and change this back to point. And then we're going to plug the top into the selection. So we've only deleted the top, and now the bottom line is kept. And now we have a trace. So it's still got the aliasing from the resolution, but because we just have the outline, we can easily clean this up. So I'm going to do Shift-A, Mesh, Operations, Mesh to Curve. It is now a curve, and we can do some fun stuff here. So if I do Curve, Operations, Resample Curve, and set this to length, and set the length to 0.023, just because I like 23, I don't know, it's a fun number. Plug it in with sometimes with stuff. And we get like, it's already retracing the curve here. It's not perfect. So what if we just do a little bit of some sliding here? So smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger. Let's talk about what length is doing here. We have a measurement. So every 0.113 meters, we are going to produce a point. So it's this to here is the same as this to here. And if I come out to this line, which is a different line entirely, it's going to have the exact same distance all the way around too. Now if I come to count, and I set this to like 25, you'll notice that this gap much bigger than this gap, because this whole traced outline has exactly the same number of points as the inner circle. The inner circle is smaller, so it looks smoother. And if I increase this, the circle is going to look a lot smoother before the outer ring does. And that's just unnecessary. We want it to all just be even at the same time. And that's why we like to use length. We still got a little bit of like some issues here, you know, like just make it even bigger. There we go. And just to smooth all this out even more, we're going to Shift-A, Curve, Right, Set Spline Type. And we're going to change this from poly to nubs. And it just rounds off all that data. And let's see, if I just make this 0.1, still keeps it reasonably smooth. And now we have a trace that has been smoothened. And we can just fill it by doing Shift-A, Curve, and Operations, Fill, Curve. And just there we go. It's a curve. Now, it starts with triangles. Triangles for fill curve is a quicker operation, but as I'm sure you noticed, you get all of this extra line geometry, and it's just making a bunch of triangles. And if you're trying to actually export as an SVG, scalable vector graphic, you don't want this. You usually probably don't want triangles in a lot of cases. So we're just going to click N-gons. This is a slower process, but it gives us just a line. And so if I come back here to face, it's all there. And it's just a much cleaner SVG graphic. It's just curved data, and it's very reduced. So what else is there to do? Because basically, if I just reload this image and I draw a spooky ghost and give it some spooky eyes, a spooky face, and spooky thin arms, you'll notice it's not super perfect. It's kind of weird. So let's come over here and clamp the color by doing utilities color ramp, and we're just going to push the blacks in. Wow, look at that. Kind of fixed the issue. But, oof, it's sort of not tracing what I want. We want to flip that. We can either do that by doing this, or we could actually have better control over it by doing Shift-A, Utilities, Math, Bool Math, and set it to equal. Now you just have a box that you can check off and on. And you can actually plug this over to here, and then you have that right there in your modifier panel. Fun, right? Cool stuff. So, I mean, what else is there to do except potentially animate it? Maybe have it draw itself out? Because, golly, it's curve data, which means we can have things move along a curve, and let's just get into that. So, I think where I put this, so I just take a delete geometry, and we're going to put it right here. Okay. Now we're going to do a little vector math, a little math nodes. So we want some index, which is going to sample the count of our curve. So every point in the curve, it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like however many points I have, it's going to count up the points. And it's just going to follow along with that. So if I plug this into that, geez, okay. So when I plug index into my selection for delete geometry, and then reconnect it into the chain, we've just got a little point right there, not really much to work with. So let's add in some math nodes. Okay? We're going to math up a bunch of stuff here. Let's talk about some math. What does multiply do? What does add do in context of stuff? What does like all of this stuff do? The way I like to think about multiply is it's kind of like scaling stuff up, or like, you know, multiplying intensity of things. Like if you do, all right, here, I'll get into it in a second. Okay. Multiply add. We're going to set this to -1. Okay. The trace is back. We're going to duplicate this, and we're going to set it to power. And -1 is okay. But there's two things we're going to be doing here. Is we're going to be producing, we're going to have it draw itself out. So that means essentially this. Let me click play here. Is it's going to draw itself. Okay? Isn't that fun? That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's what we're getting into. So in order to make sure that we can just select one point using the power node and then counting up index, which just makes this really simple. If you've never used the power node, we'll talk about it in just a minute. Let me just build this chain. So it's index, multiply add, power, and we're going to set this actually to an incredibly irrational value, like negative infinity as the exponent. Yeah, that'll be fine. Then, because we want this to animate along our frame count, we are going to do a Shift-A search scene time, and we're going to plug another math node, multiply add, plug this into the add, plug frames into the value. We are then, I think, just going to, I think we'll just keep that at 1 for now, and we'll put that there for now. And let's do a utilities math bool math, set it to equal. And if you'll notice, there's a little point right there. All right, we're getting somewhere. Okay. So this thing I'm doing, I actually want to do a join geometry. And I think I put that in the wrong spot. I want the join geometry to be not connected. And I want it there, I think. And so then this one's just going to go like that. No, it's not. So then we've got the delete, we've got there, and I want to do an instance on points. Shift A, instances, instance on points, and then I'm just going to drop in a cube so that we can see our points. We got 2 cubes, too big, 0.1. That's good enough. So we can see our points. Now, if I hit play, we got 2 cubes, butt to butt, following each other along our ghost path. Can't quite see the ghost. Okay, so we're back. I just had to check a note real quick. So we got our 2 cubes chasing out our ghost, and we want to make this 2 cubes 1 cube. So I'm gonna hit pause. I think if we just 0.9. No, wait, no. Sorry, that's not. Keep that at 1. Let's do there. And now we just added a slight 0.1 to it, so it keeps it isolated. And this is kind of cool. We just got this cube trace in it, but we kind of want it to build itself. I mean, that would be a lot cooler. So before the power node, we're going to drop in a modulo. And instead of negative infinity, let's set it to a more reasonable number. And as we can see here, we're getting some tracing, which is pretty cool. And if I delete that, we can see that our ghost is tracing itself out. Little cubes all around it. Now, if I adjust, here, I want this to trace a little faster. I'm going to set that to a speed of, not that, 1.2. It's good enough. Now, if I change this value and make it more negative, we can see we get a more solid line. If I make it on the positive, we can see that we get obviously less of that. So if I make it, around here, we get lots of really fast drawings. We can sort of change the pattern. All right, now this is pretty cool. So if you notice here, a couple of things happening when we adjust the modulo, it definitely affects some of that, making it more negative, making it more positive. Kind of does the same thing, a little differently. And you can affect that spacing. And then we got the cubes. They travel along. Honestly, I'm just trying to keep track of what I have to do next. So let's say instead of cubes as your outline, you just wanted like outline, like just a tube. So we have this little setup right here, which if we do a bool into a multiply add, set to curve radius, curve to mesh, and then we do a curve circle, and you could just set it to 12. It doesn't have to be 32. We just take our geometry and plug it in to this chain here. And let's just delete this. And we can see that we actually have something going on. We've got something going on. We have. And if we just look at the line, we can see that now we have a line tracing itself. And we can increase the thickness. We can increase the amount of insanity that's happening. And if we do this, we can obviously change the outline type. And so that's how you do that. You do the set curve radius for the outline. And when you plug in this, we get the outline drawing with, obviously, there we go. Just join it later, and it now connects proper. So every time I come over here and do a blank canvas and make a drawing, it updates it in real time. If you do in the instances, obviously, you can make it look kind of like traffic going by. Let me just make this a 1. Look at that. You got cubes going in different directions. Do a little intersection here. Look at that. They're driving. And there you got the inner side. I'm just going to extend that out. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of running out of stuff to sort of shove into here, and that's kind of it. Yeah, you can obviously use this, invert the data, and do kind of like a cool cityscape generator just by fucking drawing road maps. I have a lot of fun just watching it kind of draw whenever I trace here. It's just kind of cool. Yeah, there you go. You got a road. How cool is that? So I'm just going to start trying to stop talking and close up this tutorial because I think that's just about it. That's the whole chain. Very fun. That's the simple part about it. And you have a great day. Everybody stay safe, have fun, and try out math with your art. So if we just do capture 5, and we do our trace at this point, we can then see that capture 5 is a very low res logo of Andres Trinu Media. And this isn't tracing everything, so let's adjust this clamp here, the color ramp, and see how much more we get traced. I think it's going to end. Let's make this 75 speed. And there we go. Now we get the whole thing. Very low res. Now we get a very clean trace. That's the beauty of this, is you can actually take low res images and you can clean up that edge. Why not? Let's just look at that edge. Oof, it's a little wobbly. It's not a problem because if we increase, oh yeah, that's not doing anything. If we change this modulo here, I'm actually going to bring this back in. We can see, yeah, just throwing that in, making it like 0.1, doesn't fucking matter. Really helps clean up that edge. If we make this 0.0023, we can see that kind of broke it. All right, so thank you for tuning in.